Hey, this is Captain Scott in the Blue TV. I'm going to take a few minutes today to show you how to deep drop. Hopefully it's something you haven't heard about before and make you a better fisherman. We're going to start off with our electric reel. We use the Beastmaster 9000s. It's a moderately priced reel that can catch anything that swims. Caught more swordfish on this than any other reel in my arsenal, and certainly more snowies, queens, blue line towels, and golden towels than I can even count. So we're going to start off by rigging this Beastmaster today. I've already filled it before you guys got here with 65-pound Max Quattro. Beautiful thing about Max Quattro, it is the skinniest line on the planet. This 65-pound is the diameter of 15-pound test mono. That, in the beginning, is just the easiest way to get to the bottom with the less line scoped out. Why do I care about scope? The more line it's scoped out, the less you can feel the bite. So we're going to start off with 65-pound Max Quattro, and we're going to put on a double Bimini twist to get started on the basic rig. So we're going to put the line in free spool here, and we're going to make about a 6-foot Bimini. Right here on the rod holder. Start the Bimini right below the handle. All right, we're going to get on the handle and tighten it up. We're going to come on back down over itself, nice and snug. We're going to finish it off with a few half hitches. One on the inside leg, and then 5 or 6 around both legs. This line is so skinny that even with a Bimini twist, it has the appearance of not being that strong of a knot. So just for my own peace of mind, I'm going to do this a second time and double the Bimini. We're going to do this all over again. It's going to be short, but it's going to be stout. We're going to bring that line right up to the first knot, get it nice and snug, then finish it. Now this is just, makes me feel better when I'm dropping, especially for swords, and I'm going from a loop to loop. That single 65 is really skinny. The double 65 just feels better when you do a loop to loop with a swordfish rig. So since I tie it for that, I tie it for everything. All right, we need the second Bimini over using the first Bimini. Now I have a pretty Bimini twist ready to go, to a heavy duty Bimini twist. Now if I were going to put a swordfish leader on here, I've got a little more thickness so that the 65 won't cut into the Dacron. All right, now with this being done, we're going to get ready to deep drop. Nice quality 300-pound snap swivel is a must. Don't want any tangles from spinning rigs. We got a nice quality ball bearing swivel. We're going to attach with a cat's paw. Cat's paw is a pretty cool knot because you don't have to trim it. Now we got our loop. We're going to take the loop through the barrel part of the swivel, bring it up onto the Bimini, and then we're going to bring it back to the Bimini, just flipping it right through. Now we're just going to take the entire swivel through 4 times. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. Now really slowly, just going to bring it all down. You just get 2 uni knots coming down each other. That's cat's paw. Real simple, pretty, clean. All right, Now we got to get our rigs. Your local West Marine has a variety of rigs and all different size hooks and leader material. These are your typical deep drop rigs, are 13-0s, which are good for large, medium to large squids and large chunks of bait. And I prefer the 9-0s for the queen snappers and blue line tiles. So we're going to go ahead and take this one out, unwrap it. You want to pre-buy several of each, because if you hang the bottom, you're going to need another one real quick, so you don't waste a day. A little time invested in deep dropping, and the time is a little further offshore. But when you're out on a day of dolphin fishing, 20 miles out, 30 miles out, 700 feet of water to 2,000, and it's just not happening, it's nice to be able to stop and go grocery shopping. Just find the right bottom, use your Simrad bottom machine and plotter, and you'll actually be able to catch something besides dolphin in the day they're not biting. So this is standard queen snapper rig with the 9-0 hooks. It's 5 hooks in series, a loop on one end, and to kind of pick up your game a little. You don't have to do this, but if you do, you might get a few more bites. This swordfish light, call it little lollipop lights. They're good for 300 to 3,000 hours. They're water activated. When they're out of the water, they turn themselves off. But just slide that on with your rig, and it'll just bring some fish around to see what's going on. So now we've got our light and our rig snapped on. We're in the rod holder, and there's a lot of people moving around the boat. You don't want anybody to be getting messed up. So you have your rod laid out, one on the bow, one on the stern. Now you got to pick the right weight. We'll start with, always start light. We'll start with 5 pounds. Put our 5-pound stick lead on. And then every boat's different. Find the right holder where you can just set the lead in and keep the rig out of the inside of the boat. So if some kids are running around, pets are running around, they're not going to get hooked up. Now what are we going to put on this? Squid. All your tackle shops, including West Marine, carry a variety of frozen baits. Ballyhoo, mackerel, chum, and boxes of squid. Squid come in boxes of 3 to 5 pounds. I prefer the 3-pound boxes. I think that the squid are usually smaller. But whichever you can get a hold of, it's all you got to do. A typical 2 hours of deep dropping, you're going to go through 2 3-pound boxes and maybe 1.5 5. Just make sure before you leave on your trip, they have all the value you need for the day and at least 1 5-pound box, if not 2 or 2 3-pound boxes. I don't have any squid thawed out right now, but to put a squid on a hook is really holding a squid in your hand, the very tip of the head, the pointy end. You just want to run that through 1/4 inch, spin the hook all the way through, turn it, and then stick it into the body between the 2 mantles. And that way you don't want to stick it dead center, so you want it to kind of swim. You're going to be drifting, so you want it pulled by the tip. So go through the tip, then bring it in between the butterfly mantle, and it's going to flutter on the bottom. I've seen a lot of people just stab them on, and they don't get bites. They don't understand why. It's just a matter of go through the very top, 1/4 to 1/2 inch in, spin the hook, and put it back into the bait, and it's ready to go. These pre-rigged systems are great, and they catch a lot of fish. I prefer on some days to kind of lighten them up a little. The main line's 400, the tag ends are 300. I don't mind the main line being 400, but sometimes I think, especially with tile fish and queen snappers, that it's a little too stiff a presentation. So I always bring along another skein of 130 and some 7/0 hooks, and I'll cut this rig off, and I'll put my rig on with a little lighter drop. The main line does not seem to matter, but the drop it does, especially when you're targeting fish that are a little more highly coveted, like the queen snapper and the golden tiles. This is going to catch them, but you'll catch more if you kind of lighten the drop line. Again, when you're visiting your tackle store, you got to get your rigs, and then you got to get your leads. There's a 5, 6, and 8. I keep this nice little Rubbermaid here. You can get it at Home Depot with 2 8s, 2 6s, 2 5s, 2 4s, where I can move them with me. I keep the same amount somewhere stored away wrapped in a towel. But I never go offshore without more weight than I could ever imagine using for 3 trips. Just in case you find some shaggy bottom and you start losing gear, you don't want to be 30 miles out, dolphin aren't biting, and you can't use your new electric reel because you ran out of lead. Keep a few that you can move around the boat and keep a few wrapped in a towel for backup. When you're buying your tackle, your snap swivels, always make sure you have a couple swordfish wind-ons. They're all pre-made now. West Marine carries several brands, and they come in, they're always 150 feet long, but the diameters change. This is 150 pound. For the Beastmaster was 65. Yes, I could put 80 on here, but then I can't drop for a swordfish a little bit later. If I put 80 on here and it's current strong, I'll run out of line before I hit bottom. I'll hit bottom, but before I drift 30, 40 minutes scoping out, I'll run out of line. So with 65 pound on here and 150 wind on, that all fits beautifully on a Beastmaster. And if you're wondering, well, how do I know how much line to put on? On the Beastmaster, the inner spool has a scored mark 3/8 of an inch from the top. When your line is full to that scored line with your braid, this wind on will fit on there perfectly. 150 pound rig. So there you go. I mean, so if you don't want to put a 250 pound rig on there and only get 50 yards on there and then, or 50 feet on there and have to cut the rig apart. So 65 pound is a perfect marriage with this rod and reel combo. And that first scored line on a Beastmaster will easily fit a 150 wind on every time. All right, here's our setup. You got our squid. We got our hooks ready. Now we got to go figure out how to catch them. We're going to go back to the Simrad unit and show you how to use the tracking feature. I'm not fishing today, but I'm using Marathon Hump because I was there recently as how to set up your bottom machine and GPS to actually hit the mark every time when you're trying to catch something on the bottom. All right, so the most important part of making a drift is to change your settings to north up. Why north up? North up doesn't change the screen, it just moves the boat. When you have heading up, the chart continually moves and the boat's static. So for instance, here we are on the west hump. We're doing some tuna drifts. I make one drift. I'll zoom in a little bit. Probably my first drift. Wanting to be right on this mark where I marked the tunas, I missed. So what do? I take my boat and I bring it back to here. And then I do my next drift. And when I catch the fish, I zoom in to 500 feet and hit the same exact drift every time. Sometimes I didn't get a bite, I run back. I hooked up and I'm taking off screen, fighting a fish. See, this was back in March, just for another wonderful thing about a Simrad. Every time you go fishing, if you touch your track, it'll remind you of that day. So if that was good fishing that day, you're like, hey, maybe I want to be on that spot. But for instance, we know the tunas are always on the crown. That's 485 feet. On 80% of the days, the tunas are right on top of that crown. So you have to find every day you have to find how to hit that spot. This given day was 240 degrees, perfect drift, perfect drift, perfect drift. See, I go to the hump often, but in north up, the screen's staying here and your boat's gonna come back. Your boat's coming back and you can make decisions instantly if I need to move over here to hit my mark, move over here to hit my mark. Some days you drift 240, some days you drift 240 degrees. Some days you drift 65 degrees and you come back 235. Some days you drift to 60 degrees, you come back 240. And that all you'll learn on 3, but by the time you have 3 drifts, you're gonna know exactly where to hit it. And when you hit it, look at that mark, look at that mark. That's gonna give you your best chance to hit the same spot. This is for tunas, but it works exactly the same for bottom fish. If we were trying to work that spot, look at that nice bottom there. We want to investigate right here. We're going to hit here. Knowing that that's our drift, we're going to just use protract out. That's where we're going to start to hit that spot. If we miss, coming back, we'll know exactly to move this way or this way. It's super easy. It just matters zooming into 500 feet, doing 2 drifts, and by the 3rd drift, if you're getting bites, you can repeat it over and over and over again. And that's how you're going to start filling your boat with your snowy groupers, blue line tiles, and queen snappers. Just a matter of north up. And if you need any Simrad equipment, West Marine carries every brand from all price points from 21 footers to 100 footers. Whatever fits your budget, Simrad has it, and it's at West Marine. So find the fish and then zoom in on the fish with your GPS, use your track, and hit that spot over and over again. And before the end of the day, you're gonna have new bottom numbers and old bottom numbers that you can really wear out. Even before I leave the dock, I spend a few minutes every day. I know where I want to go, but then I have to find a few new spots. How do I find new spots? Well, I go into settings and I set up my chart. And I turn on high resolution bathymetrics. That's the first thing I do. It takes away inshore day beacons, but I'm not going cruising today. I'm going looking for fish. So boom, high resolution bathymetrics, and it shows you all the drops in light detail. As soon as I ever see 720 feet to 800 feet on a point, that's a spot I want to investigate. Unfortunately, this area of the ocean's closed, so I can never check this spot out. But zooming in on this spot, you've got 840 to 720. First off, that's going to be as queen snappery as you could get. And if it's not queen snappers, it's definitely going to be blue line tiles. If it's soft bottom, it could be golden tiles. And there's certainly going to be snowy groupers. I always like to find fingers when I'm in north up that the current's going to go across. And our current goes northeast southwest here in Middle Keats. So I'm actually going to come, my course, I would start here to go there. I would finish up there, then come back again. Then I go, if that very deep point wasn't working, this is beautiful. I'll come in here to 600 feet and try that point. You're always looking for fingers. So you go from deep to shallow to deep. And on the rise and tops, that's where you're gonna find your new species. Fishing on the backside works, but it's not as reliable. And down here, if I go a little bit further, it's 762 feet. If I zoom in, how deep is the water around it? It's 30 feet deep from 790 to, but it's real slow. That might be a really good spot to look for tile fish, because if that's soft bottom, that slow slope, that's a feature that I would want to try out. And then when I'm looking for the groupers, I like to get a little deeper and find those hard edges, like right there. See that spot? It's going to be a little trench in between 650 and 720. If I wanted to try that out, I'd get here, start my drift. If I missed, I'd make adjustments to hit that spot every time. So just turn on your high resolution bathymetrics before you go out. Pick a couple of spots kind of where you want to fish anyway, and that's where you want to start investigating for grocery shopping in the Florida Keys.